everybody, what's going on? My name is Galaxy. Welcome to today's video. As you could probably tell, we're going over a build. We're doing some Graveborn Spore Warden action stuff today. This is more of the update to the one I've already done. Now, I got an idea for an overflow blood bag build, and I wanna start working on that. But before I did, I felt like I needed to really refine this current build to be as good as it could for you guys before I moved on to the next thing. So let's go ahead and hop into this updated version. There's a few minor, but I think pretty important tweaks coming into this build from the last one. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. Stick around for more of the videos coming out in the future. Like I said, I already have plans for another Graveborn build, which shouldn't be out in too long. So make sure to go check the channel for that, or my other Graveborn builds. I've got a Graveborn Spell Shot build out, and I also have a Graveborn Stabomancer build out, if you guys want to check those out on the channel. Okay, anyways, I'll wrap it up. Let's get into the gear. Now, the two main weapons for the build are going to be the same as last time. We're going over the Gluttony and where we are, the Ruby Spite. Now, due to some incredible misfortune, I have not a chaotic version of either of these at the moment, which quite sucks if I'm being honest, but these still get the job done. Make sure to go for a chaotic or a volatile version of these if you guys can. I'm working on it. I'm just getting super unlucky. You can see over here I've got multiple copies of the Gluttony on me, and I just cannot get a chaotic version for the life of me. But get yourself a Gluttony. Now, in the last build I didn't mention this because I don't think I knew that there was a thing, but you can get, as you can see, the ×2 version of this gun. The damage is a little bit lower than a single shot, but that ×2 is going to make a hell of a difference whenever you guys get it. And again, shoot for a chaotic version of the ×2. And you're really going to want to shoot for the enchantment that when action skill is active, increase dark magic damage by 50%. The Gluttony is always dark magic, so obviously that's going to be good. Same thing with the Ruby Spite. I got that same enchantment, and the Ruby Spite is also always dark magic, so you don't got to worry about farming for a specific version of that. Now, the Gluttony explodes shortly after impact, creating a dagger storm. I'll show you all that real quick. See? It does that, and that's where a lot of the damage is going to be coming from. We'll get into that later, and also in this video, unlike the last one, I'm going to showcase a few bosses for you guys. A few people mentioned that they really wanted to see some bosses, and I didn't do too many, so we're going to be doing those at the end. And the Ruby Spite has crossbolts deal 3% increased damage for each crossbolt stuck in a target, and they last for 5 seconds. So every bolt you get in an enemy will increase your damage on them by 3% for the 5 seconds that specific bolt is stuck in there, and there's no cap on that. So when you get this thing's ability procced, which again I'll show you later, the damage ramping is going to be really good even after the nerf. I know this gun just got nerfed, but don't let that fool you. I'll show you all how good it still really is after this. And again, don't be unlucky like me. Get yourselves a chaotic version of this. And now another difference from this build to the last one is going to be our melee weapon. I had the frying pan in there because I was talking about needing defense in the build, which it does help with the frying pan having that damage reduction from the back, but I felt like the 5% of action skill cooldown ability that this has really boosts our damage uptime on the build, really allowing us to keep Blizzard up for a lot longer than we could before. And I got a good enchantment on this, which is on action skill start, increase status effect chance and damage by 20% for 10 seconds, which is good because, like, again, we're using dark magic for pretty much everything, which is a status effect, so this is going to be a really good buff. And the enchantment procs on action skill start, and the ability of the weapon itself is to help us get our action skill back faster, so that's just a really good combo there. I believe a gun I recommended last time was the Masterwork Handbow. Feel free to use one if you have it. It's no elemental damage, but the damage it was pretty good, especially since I had this volatile version, but the latest hotfix patched this up pretty good and really decreased the effectiveness of it. Still usable, but just not as good as before. And a gun I use, this one's mainly for fun. It's not too bad, but like I said, it's pretty fun. It is the Boniface's Soul. It's another dark magic pistol that has thrown weapon homes in on enemies and explodes on impact. Now I'll show you guys what that really looks like here. How cool is that? Feel free to use just your favorite dark magic weapons for these bottom two. The staples are going to be the Gluttony and the Ruby Spite. The other stuff's up to you. These are just suggestions. Another key difference in this build from the previous one is going to be my artifact here. I was using a purple artifact before. They gave me 34% dark magic power or damage, but I went ahead and swapped that over to this, which gives just an overall 30% gun damage, which is pretty similar to that 34% dark magic damage, but this is overarching and includes all guns, so you can really diversify your equipped weapons. And this ability also has, whenever you deal melee damage, to use a 30% chance to instantly reload 100% of your currently equipped guns. Now, for the Gluttony, that's not going to be a super big thing, because obviously a lot of our damage comes from the reloading, since it creates the dagger storm whenever reloaded. But that is going to be pretty helpful for the Ruby Spite if you're doing a lot of mobbing and enemies are up close, and you don't want to take the second or two to reload. You can just start slashing, you know? And like always, we're going to be using this Dark Magic Buffmeister I have, and I don't care how long it takes. Go get yourself a Dark Magic Buffmeister for this build. It's going to make a world of difference. I know you got a Buffmeister, and I know it's probably Frost, or I know it's probably Poison, and you're thinking that's going to be good enough. But if you want it to be the best, you go and get the Dark Magic one, okay? Don't make me tell you again. We're using the same armor pieces last time. We're using the Deathless Mantle. This one is just too good with that +4 to Eagle Eye, which just gives us a ton of gun damage. And this rolled with 15% to all damage dealt anyway, as well as 20% movement speed, which is just fun. It is important to mention that you will need some form of the Deathless Mantle for this build to be as good as it can. Now, I know you're not going to have the exact rolls I get, but just try to get some good ones that go with skills we use for the build, and that'll do you just fine. Next up, we're using the Trick Mirror. Now, the Trick Mirror has a 75% chance to reflect bullets and arrows at attackers and nearby enemies while ward is not depleted, which is good whenever you're fighting people with, obviously, bullets and arrows. That helps out with the defense a bit. And I have the enchantment on Spellcast, increased gun damage by 30% for 10 seconds. We're going to be using the Buffmeister pretty much constantly. We got a couple skills to help with the cooldown of that, as well as hero points or myth rank to help with the cooldown of this. So we're going to be using this all the time. So this 30% for 10 seconds is going to be active almost all the time as well. Next up for the rings, I'll mention, like I do in every single build, that the rings are the least important part of these. They give the least unique and increasing special effects, I should say. Now I have this one, which really helps against bosses. Dealing damage to a boss increases the effects of the ring by 100% for a moderate amount of time. Now this ring did roll with melee damage plus 17%, but the important part that we're looking for is that 14.8% pistol critical hit damage. All of our guns are pistols, at least the ones that I'm using. So whenever I'm fighting bosses, that'll increase to, what's that, 29.6% pistol critical hit, which is really good. And this ring has spell critical hit and sniper critical hit, which don't even fucking worry about that. I just got it for the gun damage, 15%. I'm honestly on the hunt for a better ring myself, but roll something with some damage for the build. Next up is the skills. Now the skills that we're taking are the same, but there's a couple minor differences in the accolation of the points. Now there's going to be a couple slight differences over here in the Graveborn tree. I think the Spore Warden tree is mostly the same as the last build. But we'll start with the Graveborn tree, as we need to make it down to Lord of Edges, which is Fate Maker gains increased damage dealt and damage reduction the lower its health. So you get 25% damage reduction and plus 25% damage dealt the lower your health. So being as we're at 1 health all the time due to the Deathless Mantle, this is constantly active and provides a quite big buff. We're going to start at the top of the tree with Fateful Thralls. We're going to throw 3 into that, and then you'll throw 2 points into Essence Drain. Now Fateful Thralls increases damage per companion. We get 9% per companion. So right off the top with our, also later in the tree, we'll be taking 3 points into Dark Hydra, which allows us to summon Dark Hydras whenever we deal dark magic ability damage, and those kind of companions as well. So if we got all 3 of them summoned combined with the 2 class companions, which puts us at 45% damage increase, which is hella good if you ask me. We're going to be taking 5 points into Essence Drain, which is a kill skill that helps with your spell cooldown rate, 25% for 12 seconds on kill, which is very good, helps us with our Buffmeister. Then go ahead and put 5 points into Dark Pact. With 5 points accoladed into that, you get 20% of your dark magic damage. Obviously, don't need to explain why that's so good. I already explained the Hydras. We will have some points left, so you can just go ahead and add them over here. I threw them into Mortal Vessel. Now, what this does is it increases maximum health in dark magic efficiency. Now, I know that might seem dumb because we're using the Deathless Mantle, but I can explain. The dark magic efficiency is definitely useless with this build, so it doesn't help us at all, but the maximum health increase still increases our shields by quite a bit. As you can read on the Deathless Mantle, it returns 150% of our health as ward capacity, meaning it doesn't technically increase our health, but it does increase our shield by even more than this says, because it gets 150% return from the Deathless Mantle. So this isn't a waste. This will increase your shields by a decent amount, just not your health. Over in the Spore Warden tree, we're taking Blizzard, obviously, because of its 16-second duration. It does have a long cooldown, but we got a Goblin Pickaxe to help us out with that this time. And we're going to want to take this one because none of the other abilities have actually like a duration, which we're definitely going to need to help proc our enchantments, such as the ones on our weapons, where our action skill is active, increase dark magic damage by 50%. Wrath of Nature also gets the best buff out of Blizzard, and I'll explain that when we get down there. Obviously, we're maxing out Eagle Eye, as that is our main skill from our armor piece. With the +4, we got 36%, or right off the top, to gun damage, and 45% to handling. Next, we're taking Bullseye, and with our +1 and the 5 points in there, that gives us 60% critical hit chance increase. And I know this isn't like the super most bestest skill. I'll just explain why we're not taking these instead, and that's the best option over these other ones. Kindred Heart is for companions. Don't need to explain why we're not using that. Affinity is for ability damage, and we're not really going for ability damage. We're just using our ability to proc other buffs. The ability damage itself isn't actually really doing all that much. Bounty of the Hunt does increase action skill cooldown rate, but since we're using the Goblin's Pickaxe and that gives us a decrease by percentage, the amount of time that it takes doesn't really matter, it's the percentage that matters. So whether our skill cooldown is a little lower or not isn't going to be affected too much because the pickaxe is just going to blow through that cooldown fast enough anyways. And Spore Cloud is also a companion skill, which we're not using. Now the next row has some really good skills. We are taking the Medicinal Mushroom, as for 1 point, the ability to be revived by your companion is just a ridiculous value, so definitely don't skip out on that. We're taking 3 points into Quiver of Holding, so that way our magazine size can get increased, and also add a little ammo regeneration onto there. I explained in a different video the liquid cooling and its nerf and how bad it actually got, but a good idea for one of your gun slots could be to run a liquid cooling just to get the most benefit out of Quiver of Holding, as this has ammo regeneration. So what that does is that is going to refill. Let me shoot a couple bullets here. You can see our magazine, not our reserve, but our magazine is what is regenerating ammo. So since the liquid cooling doesn't have a magazine, it just in general reloads ammo from the reserve instead of the magazine. So if you're ever just like doing a run through somewhere, or you need to regenerate some ammo and your magazine isn't big enough, throw on the liquid cooling and just hold it, so that way the ammo regeneration can give you more back. We'll be taking Windrunner, which is a kill skill that increases our movement speed and fire rate for a short duration. So obviously movement speed is good, and obviously fire rate's good, so we're just going to take all the points into that we can, as nothing else really gives us as big of a benefit as that. Next up, we're skipping Thrill of the Hunt, because again, another companion skill. And we're taking Called Shot, which is while aiming down the sights, the Fate Maker gains increased gun damage and damage resistance. So that can go up to 10 stacks, and I think you get like 1 stack per second. So while you're aiming down sights, every second you're aiming down, you get 5.3% gun damage, which after 10 seconds is 53% gun damage. And you also get 51% damage resistance. So that's just in general going to be a huge bonus. Next up is Headhunter, which is another 1 point skill that gives a good bonus, which gives gun damage increased to critical hit areas. And since we took Bullseye to increase our critical hit chance by 60%, that's pretty good value for 1 point. And then we throw the other 2 into Wrath of Nature. Wrath of Nature to me is almost like, it's pretty much just slag from the other Borderlands games, if you guys know what that is, which just makes enemies take increased damage from other sources. So anytime we have Blizzard out and it's going around hitting people, it just makes us deal an extra 36% damage to them. The hero skills this time around, I went ahead and spread out a little more evenly. I maxed out status damage, as again, we're doing elemental and status damage all the time, so I wanted that maxed out. I threw a few points into Constitution to help with our max HP and ward, which again, just all goes to the ward, but the max HP bonus is even higher than that, so that's why our health is so high. Throw some points into Spell Cooldown to help with the Buffmeister, and then I took the leftovers and just threw them into crit damage to help out with that. For our Myth rank, obviously you can't really change this up at the moment, but I'll give you guys recommendations on what I would do. In the Archmage tree, go ahead and start with status effect chance, max that out, and then probably move over to intelligence. In the Blade Master tree, you're obviously going to want to start with your dark magic damage and max that out as quickly as you possibly can, and then move over to Constitution and get that filled up. For the Deadeye tree, the 2 big ones are going to be magazine size and gun damage. I went with magazine size because the Gluttony is a Ferior or Tediora weapon, so it gets more damage based off of how much ammo you have in the magazine. Now the magazine size for this is only 19, but as you can see in reality, it's 30, which helps a lot, adds a lot of damage onto our Dagger Storms. And for the Druid tree, you know we're all about that loot lug, baby. And then after that, just go with ability damage, since nothing else even remotely really applies to the build. And finally, we can move on to dealing some damage to bosses. I'll kill Droll real quick since we're already here. Alright, we got him. We'll pop our abilities and get our Dagger Storms going. Honestly, I'll just throw 2 and just sit back and watch him die. Alright, we can hit up with Chance, see how he's doing. Okay, ability's coming back. There we go. And voila. You gotta be careful with the Gluttony as well, because if you throw it too close to yourself, you can do a little damage to yourself through your shield and instant down yourself. So make sure whenever you're throwing these, you keep them like at least a bit distance away from yourself. But other than that, as you can see, just go ham with those. They do amazing damage. Once Banshee moves back here, go ahead and pop your abilities and start getting some Dagger Storms thrown out. Make sure to do your best to keep in mind of where her beams are going to be. Oh, I see, I messed up. But she's a really easy boss fight, being as these skulls are like all one-shots to res yourself. You know, I didn't mention at the beginning, but I'm sure everybody will have noticed that is looking out for it, that we are on Chaos 20 for all of this. We'll even mess around with Vorkanar a bit, show you guys how this works on some of the stronger bosses. Get our action still going, get our Buffmeister going. Start loading them up with the Gluttonies. Gluttony is really good for this fight because obviously Vorkanar can't move, so you can just start stacking those and go to town on him. As you can see, it's a bit of a slow burn, but I mean, we're getting there nonetheless. Already halfway done. Also, another good thing to do is just smack him up with our pickaxe since he can't move. Again, get our action skill back, pop the Buffmeister, hit him with a few dagger storms. Got Blizzard back, got the Buffmeister. Throw out a few Gluttonies, and start shooting them. Anytime you need your action skill back, again, just start going crazy with the pickaxe. And there you go. Vorkanar's dead. Now, at first glance, the Ruby Spite seems to shoot kind of slow and have this big spread, like this. But once you get a kill with it, its ability activates and it starts firing much faster and it starts homing in on enemies. And again, don't forget about the ability that each one of these cross bolts that's stuck in somebody increases the damage they take from it by another 3%. So every time you hit somebody with it, they're taking 9% increased damage from that for 5 seconds, which, I mean, doesn't sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, like in a game like this, 5 seconds is a hell of a long time. Anyways, I think that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching this far in. Go ahead and leave a like for me and subscribe if you don't mind, because I got videos like this coming out all the time, and I don't think you'd want to miss out on those, especially since I got a nice one, a nice health build coming up for the Graveborn after this. So it's going to be kind of the complete opposite. It's going to be mostly health, less shields. So make sure to subscribe and stick around for that. Go ahead and leave a comment for me down below. Let me know what you guys think of the build, or if you have any suggestions or concerns. I talk to everybody that comments, so if you got anything to say, go ahead and let me know down there. And yeah, I'll let you all get back to your own games. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.